Hey everybody, it's Jess again. We're looking at some watercolors. This is, I think, the fourth installment. I don't know if I've recorded all four. But this week we have a choice of the whole color palette. I started this a little bit ago because I was reading some watercolor advice, and practitioners of watercolor sometimes recommend putting a very light wash of yellow down first. I'm using a yellow in my palette that's this one. In real life, it looks like it's got green in it. I might actually have literally had a chunk of green in it at one point. I was using this for a while, but I was getting some really nice results. For some reason, this felt more like a highlighter, but looking at it in the palette, it looks like it might be warmer, but this smells like pretty neutral. I mixed it a little bit with some leftover kind of like a brownish color that I was getting, I think, with this color, this yellow and this red, and maybe a little bit of blue. So it is that same yellow, but it's got a little bit of brown. So that's what that is. And then this one, it's that beautiful indigo blue that we love, but I mixed it myself and I don't remember how I did it. I think, sorry, I'm trying to tell this your way. I think I was using my kind of cerulean blue. I don't know if that's what it actually is. I'm just guessing, but I know this is more of an ultramarine. So it was this one, probably with this if there's any red at all. I'm seeing a little bit. It might be that one, and this yellow, because that's the color experiment I used last week. I think I'm just pointing and saying this one. But let me show you what I did. It was three color, but it's primary colors, so theoretically that is a full color palette. So this was in last week's video. So my idea this week is like I have access to the full color palette. What I like to do, I've established kind of these like shadow areas with a really beautiful blue, and then made this, and I want to cover this completely with other colors to see if that yellow comes through as advertised. And then these, I think it just might be easier to build color if I know where my darker value is. So I also try to cover this paper as much as possible. So similar to last week, but trying to do more than one layer. So that's the goal for this week. I have every color at my disposal, but what do you do when you have that kind of power? How do you limit it? I know my interior, this is the actual or close to the actual color of the tea kettle. Is that like kind of gorgeous turquoisey pistachio color? It doesn't really look like that in real life, but it's a close approximation. So I know I want to use one of the greens to make that. I forgot what I used last week. But all these other colors, these like sienna, umber, beautiful purple, the ochre I'm wary of, but who knows? They all have different opportunities. I think the really saturated greens might be too lush for this arrangement. That would be really appropriate if I was doing underwater or a dense forest or something I really wanted a lot of darkness to, but this is kind of an early morning feeling. So I think those are the only colors I would like officially eliminate. And then there's colors we sort of gravitate towards. So the idea being like have a color in mind, like, oh, I kind of want an indigo. Mix it, and you don't use every color to mix the color you want, but you also don't have to use every single color in the palette for it to be considered a full color palette. It just means it's available to you. Sort of like unlimited budget is how we're thinking of the color palette. So I'm going to adjust my light a little bit to see if we can get rid of a little bit of the glare. Sorry about the glare. It might be fine. I might just maybe just move the palette a little bit. Ooh, there we go. Okay. So this is, I'll probably start painting and forget all about where I put things, but here we go. So how do you prioritize something? A lot of times people will mix skin tone first. I don't know if that's a remnant of like coloring when we were little, trying to color the people in first, drawing people before we really knew how to draw anything. So I get the yellow on the palette, I'm rinsing my brush to keep my brush clean, and then I'm getting a little bit of this browner orangey red, a little bit more, and now it's really, really red. We were looking at the work of Sarah Glidden today, and she is also working, or was in Rolling, no, not Rolling Blackouts, her other book, How to Understand Israel in 60 Days or Less, but probably most of her watercolor work is very saturated, and I felt invited to make my work really saturated, which I haven't done. I don't want to make myself the wrong color completely, but I'm trying out the idea of like working darker than I'm comfortable with. And because I'm a little nervous, I'm using where I think shadows might be. Here maybe. So that if it is like quote unquote too dark, it'll look like I did it on purpose. That seems kind of okay though, because this does look quite dark, but it's just the first thing that's down here. When I start coloring the hair in, that'll be even darker. Now what color? I forget how I made. It was really interesting to kind of make everything from scratch last week. So I know that I can make a beautiful brown, but I am tempted to use the colors that are on like in the palette itself, because I have so many brown colors, but I'm being stubborn, I guess, because I really like the colors I mixed last week. I don't know if I'll be able to get it again. This looks a little, whoops. I was going to say it looked a little greenish gray, and now it's really warm. All right, just kind of mixing all of it. So that was like cadmium, kind of reddish color, this yellow, and a little bit of that cerulean blue. Just thinking about the hair because it's the next biggest thing that's not a background, because I haven't decided what color I want my background to be here. I'm still working lighter than I thought I would. And I'm trying to make it, I'm painting in the direction of the object itself, hair-like strokes, because I know this brush is a little dry and it's going to leave behind traces of the brush, like the kind of, here you go, here's some dry brush. It won't be this like seamless color that watercolor is sort of famous for and kind of prized for, just because I'm like, can I get away with not making it fancy? But if you see like little speckles that you don't love, you can always add a little bit of water to your brush, just a tiny bit, and kind of scrub it just a little bit. Try not to torture yourself, unless you like doing this, that's fine. But there's always another opportunity to add a little bit of layer once it dries. I cannot believe how light that is. I thought it was going to be so dark. So now I'm going back to the palette and I'm adding blue to make it darker. I'm worried this is too green, but the stuff under here is kind of red. It's still also a little wet. So I don't know if this is a bad idea or not, but we're going to do it anyway. Just because I'm curious. I want to know. But it's not bad. I can also go up here and make the hair up here kind of that darker color. Since it's a zoom out, I think it'd be fine to have it a little bit darker. We could put some hair color here on top of the blue to see what that blue's doing. The cat also is, she's not really brown. She's got a lot of black. But we can try, ooh, this is like very, very, very blue. Rinsing, grabbing that like lighter cadmium. This seems to be the color I'm going for. It's like grayish, brownish. I'm gonna see if I can paint the cat kind of. Wow, this is a lot lighter than I thought it would be, but that seems okay. And then when you have a color on your brush or you have extra, you're like, where else can I put it? I could put a little gray there. Maybe I can make this darker. I'm trying to layer it a little bit. That looks a little drier than I thought it would be. So this is like super watery. I don't know if it's gonna do much. Maybe I'm just making a mess. All right, let's see if I can do some bold moves here. I don't know if I can, but I will try. So I'm getting back into that reddish, ooh, really pretty red. And I want to mix the blue in there. Whoa, this looks like really dark. This might be what I was looking for. I just want to be a little bolder with the color. So maybe I could just layer it. See how it goes. That's pretty good. I can make this, in real life this is like a silver, but the brownish black works. I think the spout might also be silver, but I can't remember. I should go. I actually have some tea here, but I forget what my kettle looks like. Put this here. Maybe we have that shadow happen again. There's the cat. We could also maybe, I think the light's coming from the upper right. So I guess I'll just make this dark. And worry about making the top of the furniture a different color. This is a lot drier than I normally work. I don't know. Every day is a little different. Ooh, and I don't know if that's pulling up some ink. I'm just kind of staggering around trying to figure out what I want to do. But I like that dry brush thing. All right. Now for the background, I wonder if I could just continue kind of making this gray value on top of the yellow. What would that look like? I don't know. Let's try it out. Kind of looks green. My cat's yawning right now. That's very funny. So I run out of color, so I'm going back in at my edge. I might not be the best example of keeping that color flat. I do get a lot of streaks, but this is interesting. Ooh, and I don't know why. Is the black coming up there? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that looks pretty good. Kind of neutral. I could also invite myself to make the face even darker. This could be a terrible idea, but I think the goal is to be a little bolder this week, so I'm going to try it out. Now I look very bronzed. This looks really red in real life. I don't know. It's hard to see on video, but this looks really red to me. But it's kind of good. All right, I wanted to use purple. That was a goal of mine, and I didn't want it to just be just one color, but it's one of my favorite working colors. So I'm going to mix it with this red just because why not? And it looks really, 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 really dark. But I do wonder if it's actually not that dark at all. Now, what am I going to do with this powerfully loaded brush? I could put it in here, but the paper's really wet and I don't want it to bloom out. So maybe I'll try this shirt. That seems like a safe area. Whoops, and it's a little messy. That's okay. Oh, what a pretty color. So that's just like kind of two colors mixed together. And now we're going back over the yellow. So you kind of pollinate the painting, hopping from color flower to color flower. Cauliflower? That's interesting. Oh, see, this is really interesting. That's something brand new to this painting. I'm going to add yellow to my purple, maybe the other yellow, to see if I can get brownish color for the tabletop. Whoa, it's like very bronzy. Let's try it out. So this feels, maybe also, like if there was a moment where I made my skin tone too dark, if I make the other things in my painting darker, it seems like by comparison, no one has to know that I've done something I didn't want to do. Oops. Well, that looks great. Maybe not great. Maybe I'm tooting my own horn too much. That looks pretty good. Ooh. See, I'm getting a little too free. But you should be free. Why not? You're making art. All right. Just trying that out. Just really dry. That might not be the best way to do it. I was just so curious about that color. I wanted to put it down as quickly as possible. I've got a lot left on the little palette here. It does look kind of like thinner, but I think what I might do is just go for it. Put it all in the background, layering on top of that blue a little bit. It's hard to kind of stay in the lines. And I don't know how different that background is from the hair now because I've essentially made two neutrals that look greenish, but that's all right. It definitely has a richness to it when you layer it. I don't know if it's coming across in the video, but it's really interesting. I get why I get it now. I kind of get it. I feel like this is what watercolor is famous for, is being so gorgeous when you layer it. So we can only get better with time, right? If we keep doing this, we've only been painting for a couple weeks. So maybe this will get even better. I do want to make the outside kind of look a glow, but I'm waffling on the color. I'm just trying to use up more of this beautiful brown I have. So I might do that. Just layer on top of the blue with a dry brush to see what it looks like. I love it. I think it's really nice. Maybe, what can we do now? We're running low on color, so I mix another batch. How did I make that? I think that was like, had some purple in it. Purple and cadmium. And it really doesn't look like a brown. It looks a lot stronger than that. Ooh, is that my cat? I might be making the wrong color. My memory's not so good. That might be the shirt color. Let's see if we can mix that kind of a brown. This is a cerulean blue and like a cadmium red. And that hair is pretty light. It's the same color as the background, so I feel invited to make the hair even darker. This will also make the skin tone look lighter if I was concerned about like it being too dark. Now I have more contrast. Ooh, maybe I don't want to put black in the mouth because I think red is better. Interior mouth is a hard color to crack because you don't want it to look too real, too red. And then black seems like kind of a dead color. I don't know. Let's make a decision with the window. I'm gonna add yellow to this really pretty pink color to see. It might just end up being. I probably should do a swatch test, huh? I don't know why I don't do that more often. Ooh. It is kind of brown, but I do feel like it has a place in the sky. If this is a sunrise kind of gold, it might be a little too dark. I don't know. We can also make the room a lot darker, and then maybe that color will make more sense. I'm gonna add a little here. I haven't decided on a few. So my goal is to just cover the paper very quickly at first. This is just ultramarine. This might be the wrong color, but we're gonna do it anyway. Just because I want to get rid of that white color. And then where else can we, when you have a color, it might start to stand out. So if you can put it in a few places, it starts to harmonize with the other things. I'm adding a little bit of blue here. I'm not really sure how much of this is panic driven. I'm really going down a rabbit hole here. And, you know, there's a temptation to do a lot because you have every color. And I'm just trying to clean up and simplify stuff. I wanted to make kind of greenish color really quickly it's too green, but I'm hoping it'll dry a little bit. Whoops. Let's see. Kind of laid it on. Sometimes also if a color is too bright at first pass, you can add a little bit of water and dilute it. I think that blue is a little bossy, so I can tone it down with the opposite, which is like an orangey color. Just do it like that if I want. Okay, I'm going really, really fast, so you can feel free to take your time if this is a little fast. This is the other yellow. Yawn. And then, now I'm just mixing whatever I have left over. I like using everything to see if it might fit here to bring the figure forward. It does look like there's too many different spaces here. I kind of want it all to be similar, so I'm going to add a little bit more here. I don't know, that doesn't look bad. It really doesn't look that bad. I think the only thing I want to change is make this background really, really dark. So I know I said I wasn't going to use green from the pan, but I'm doing it. I don't know, you can't see it, but I'm using that green. Adding it here. Green seems really wild. So that's straight from the pan, very, very, very strong. The color many of the students are not afraid of, but I've never done it before. What are you doing? My cat's being funny. And then we get a little bit of blue. Wow, see, these are colors I was like, no way, I can't do this. Let's put it in the background and see what happens. This looks really dark. Let's see. Is it darker than the hair? Oh, it's very saturated. Very, wow. I don't even know. This could have been a really bad decision. I don't know. Maybe it's fine. Let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Again, my brush today is very dry. The heat's on, so it could have something to do with that. But I don't know. I'm just trying to use more pigment, trying to work darker, so I'm using less water, but it's harder to move the pigment around on the paper. So maybe I'm not doing it right. There's that. My edges aren't gorgeous or perfect, but they're not bad. And there's a little bit of color bleeding up here that I'm not too worried about from the yawn. Okay. All right. Hey, that's not bad. I think the only thing I need to make a decision on is the coffee mug. And I might make it some nondescript neutral color. Maybe that's boring, but I kind of want it to not be too important. There's a earthenware kind of thing. Could do a little more shadow there. Alright, so we have a little bit. I can make that darker. I'm just trying to see where I can add a little bit of variety. A little bit of dark tone. Where? Oh, here's another mug. And then I'll take this. I have like a little tiny bit left of this like grayish black. I might just make it a little darker here because I want it to feel like there's space. Like it's bright, like the sun's coming up. It's not very bright, but I like it. So that's a completely full palette, but still trying to rein it in a little bit. I think, let's see if we compare it to last week's. Some of the goals this week were to make it a little more saturated. Oops. And then also using layers. I think it looks pretty cool. All right, that's all for now. Thanks a lot.